Well, welcome everyone. This is our second Build with Me or Build with Us session. Really, today is Build with Tim. And joining me today is Tim and the master chef himself, Paul, joining us from New Zealand. Welcome, Paul.
How's things? Yeah, good.
And I am pretending we are doing a huge live show just for the benefit of recording. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm just going to go through some housekeeping stuff. So we're Notion Australia, and this is our website. And if you haven't visited our website, the URL is literally notionaustralia.co. Why we are here, we are a local Notion community for Australia and time zone neighbors. And again, we're trying to create events that's more friendly to people who are around us. So this event is about a head chef's Notion, really Paul's Notion. And I'm sure there's an interesting story that Tim and Paul's gonna chat about how they met and how this whole thing kind of get rolling. So welcome again. We have some past events replay, and we've recently actually just created a YouTube channel. If you're not on that, feel free to search Notion Australia or click through our website. We've currently got 5 videos on it. The white ones are the crowdcast events, and then the black ones are Build with Me or Build with Us session like this. And we'll hopefully try to share templates after this session as well. We'll need to work with Tim on that. Last session on the Build with Us, we did the plant nursery. You can find the templates here. It's on the website. Again, we provide a little bit typical FAQs on the page. If you are brand new to Notion or you don't know where to start, try to click on some of these, might get a clue. And spiel about Tim and I, which I'll just skip for now. And finally, you're welcome to contribute at any time, whether as a guest speaker on our crowdcast events, or you can be a Q&A or Build with Me panelist or guest, like Paul's joining us today. We're always looking for partners to help us run events together. And anything really, if you have any Notion question, if you have any ideas, feel free to email us. And then sign up to our newsletter. We'll keep you in the loop of all the events we're gonna create or run, and no spam, that's a promise. So I will hand the mic back to Tim today.
Nice.
I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, mate. Great. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. We the backstory to this build was, I think Paul and I met on Twitter, sharing our deep abiding love for Notion somehow, and I run the Notion Management Twitter account, and I always like to ask people, you know, kind of what I can share that is interesting to them, and often have these great conversations with people about their use cases, and people just use it in the most fascinating ways, in ways I would never consider. And so Paul was sharing that he was interested in using it to, like in his work as a chef. And so do you just want to give us like a bit of a heads up about what you're doing, Paul, and what you were hoping for?
Yeah, so I moved into aged care about a year and a half ago, and it's quite unlike any other kitchen. So we cycle through a menu, a monthly menu. So each day the menu is different over 4 weeks. So that presents quite a problem as a chef. You can't just get into auto mode and say, right, I'm going to sell 30 eggs Benedict tomorrow. I need 30 eggs. I need 30 muffins. You can't just get into the groove like that. You've got to have fresh ingredients on hand every day. So I was looking at how I can surface what I need when I need it. And I can't remember how I came to Notion, but I know as soon as I saw it, I fell straight in, and that's probably 2 things, the actual app itself and just the vibrant community around it. So yeah.
Yeah. And the thing you said to me that I was fascinated by and hadn't considered was, you know, typically a nursing home and aged care doesn't have like the greatest rep in terms of food. But you were saying that the world is changing now. The clientele of aged care facilities are people who expect a certain standard.
They are. They're restaurant and cafe savvy, for years now. So what most of us think of as aged care food's just not gonna cut it. So hence why I ended up in aged care. They headhunted chefs from cafe and restaurant backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, I'm relieved, I have to say. I wasn't looking forward to that season of my life, eating terrible food and drinking bad coffee, but it's not going to happen now.
No.
As long as I come to New Zealand, huh?
Oh, no, I think it'll be industry-wide, but yeah, you can come to New Zealand more than welcome.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So I might, so Paul and I started this kind of conversation and really got my brain ticking about how could we build a setup that would enable that sort of development of a menu over 4 weeks, where you could put the recipes in, put all the ingredients in, and Notion would be smart enough to allow you to do that in a kind of seamless way, and then also spit out like what you need to order to be able to run a menu like that. And just thinking, it's the use cases that always fascinate me. Like that's how I keep learning more about the product. So I'm going to demo just briefly kind of the end results, and Paul's been good enough to put a bunch of recipes in.
Please don't cook any of the recipes.
Yeah, don't cook them.
They won't work.
That's what I would say, but as a chef, I would, So I was just saying to the guys before we started the call that unlike last time when we built the plant nursery and it has this kind of beautiful dashboard to look at, this is much more about the function. I think we could keep growing it and developing it and pushing it to end up with some pretty nice looking dashboards, but this is definitely version 1. And so I've created, in the background, there are 5 databases, but in the front end and the way I would expect a user to kind of relate to it, we've got these 4 different dashboards. And so basically what we've done here is we've got a dashboard for adding dishes and recipes. So you'll see when we make our own, this is empty to start with, but the user can come in and create a recipe. And then, if we open this up, you'll see there's actually a template inside here that does some tricky stuff that I'll explain as we build. But it allows the user to put the ingredients in, to put the amount in, and have the measurement there, so that, and actually I didn't need to do this, but I started thinking, hey, you could do all kinds of cool stuff with these recipe pages and have all the instructions. And, I imagine you could have a whole lot of useful information at this point that we might want to surface in other kinds of dashboards. So anyway, the user comes in here and adds their recipes. There is a bit of a glitch that I haven't quite been able to work out, where because of the way I've used relations and rollups, you can't always specify, or you can't specify the measurement type for an ingredient in that screen. So if there are ingredients that get put in that don't have a measurement, you can fix that up here. And then you go in and you set the menu. So you set the number of serves each week. Now, limitation of this build at the moment is that you can only set the serves per week. So you can't have anyone over for dinner unless they book a week in advance. Yeah, limitations. We can work our way around them if we need to. And then we've got a menu. So what do we decide? Five meals a day? Breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner.
Yes. And
then you pick from the dishes that you've made, and you assign that to each day in the week. And then if all is working correctly, I haven't actually gone and looked at this, so
I didn't check it either. Sorry.
Yeah, right. We're doing it live. Oh, there we go. We've broken something. That's good. We'll fix it in the real one. But what will happen in the one that we build in a minute will be that all of these items, which are ingredients in the original recipes, they'll be tallied up how much of those things that we need to order. So essentially you end up with a shopping list for a very, very big shopping list.
I think I said to you, Tim, that the company I work for is over 50 sites, so you can work this out and push it out to the other chefs and be site specific as well.
Yeah.
Would also lead to a huge buying power through suppliers because we could do their forecasting for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Righto. So it takes a little while, so we need to dive in. So let's go. We're going to start at the back end. No point building the databases with nothing in them, the dashboards with nothing in them. So we literally start with 5 databases. So we're going to I'll just make them inline tables to start with, and then we'll switch them. So we got one called dishes. Hang on. I made myself a cheat sheet because there's absolutely no way I could build this from scratch while on camera with a fuzzy brain. It doesn't seem to work when you're being recorded like this. I often will create, when I'm making something from scratch like this, I'll make my databases inline tables to begin with, just so that I can have a look at them sort of live. When you make them full page, which is what they end up as, you kind of lose the visibility, especially when you're creating relations between them. It can be really confusing to work out what exactly is where. All right, so we've got 5 different databases that we're going to use, and we're going to start configuring them. We'll do that in this view as well. So we'll start with the menu. Now we've got the name, which is just the title field. We've got, now this is a bit of a hack to get the menu days of the week in order, because Monday breakfast, Monday morning tea, Monday lunch doesn't sort very well and things don't end up in the right order. I had to make a property that's a number property and just dump the numbers in. So I'll show you that in a second. And we want a property called dishes. Now this is the first of many related relation properties. So we're going to draw a whole lot of connections between these databases so that we can share information between them. So we're going to turn this into a relation, and we're going to go looking for the dishes. Oh, look at that. Oh no. Too many dishes databases for me practicing. Okay, so now this database is related to the dishes one. Now, when I initially did this, it took ages. So I just went away and created the dummy data so that I could copy and paste it. Having 5 meals, 7 days a week for 4 weeks leaves you with 140. You know this very well, Paul. You're planning the menu. 140 different meals to organise.
Yep. We actually do dessert once a day too. So.
Oh no.
And a soup every day. So.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Oh well. Note that down on the things to fix list.
Mm.
All right. So that's in. Now in the serves database, the title field becomes week, and this is a really simple one. Number of serves is a number property. We can ditch this one. Now we've got, we're going to actually put the entries in this one because it's really simple. We just need the 4 weeks. This allows us, as you'll see later on, to be able to specify how many versions of those meals we're making, particularly important when it comes to the recipes. And we have to use some pretty funky formulas to pull that off, which I have to confess, I didn't do all myself. I ran into a hurdle. I don't have a programming background, so formulas really stretches my friendship with the tool. And it's great learning kind of space, but I reached out to I don't know if anyone's seen Red Gregory. She's a Notion ambassador, they're called now. And she has a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend. It's excellent. And she's always posting cool. She's super smart. And she's always doing great stuff with formulas. So she helped me out. Okay, the dishes database. We need to change. This one's going to be related to the menu. Oh, hang on. That already exists. There's the dishes database. Bring it up here. So that one already exists because we related it from here. Yeah, if people are not too familiar with relations, basically what it does is it allows us to say, hey, I want this row here, this page, to be related to the dishes database, and then vice versa. So like a two-way connection gets formed, which we really, really need in this build. We're going to have a relationship to the recipes database. Recipes, is that right? Yep. Hang on, I've broken something here. Oh, this is a relationship to the menu, isn't it? Phew. And we're going to use a roll-up. So again, I'm not sure if people are familiar with these, but what a roll-up allows you to do is it allows you to bring information across from that other database that's in that row. And you can do all kinds of stuff with it, as we'll see. You can run calculations on it. So it's really useful. Actually, I'm wrong though. This is a formula, and it's a formula for a roll-up that we're going to use. So it's a really simple formula. One of the tricks with formulas and stuff that really caught me unawares for a long time was all the properties have a different type. Some of them are numbers, and some of them are strings, and some of them are date fields. And so the type of the property, if you're going to try and make them work together, they have to be the same type. And so all we're doing here is we're formatting the information in this property. So we're saying format, turn it into a string, this information here. And that's all we're doing. So later on, that'll make more sense. All right, keeping on. We're in the recipes database now. Now we've got a relationship to dishes. Everyone's got a relationship to dishes, but I don't know if people have come across this, but the name property is a special property, or the title property that you can't delete, and you can't not display it most of the time either. And there are just some instances where you really don't want to use it. So you can't even put just a space there. So I just put a dot in it and move it as far across as we can get it out of the way, because we won't use it. We've got ingredients. So we're going to create a relationship to the ingredients database. We need a amount field. So this is obviously the table that Paul was using to put all those recipes in. And we need another property called measurement. Now this is going to be a roll up from another database that we haven't configured yet. So we're going to have to come back. Don't let me forget, we have to come back to that one. And finally, we need another roll up. We're going to bring the information about the menu across from the menu database. So we need a roll up. And so what the roll up does, it says which database do you want to pull this info from? And so we want to pull it from the dishes database, and we want to pull that information that we just put in the menu for roll up. Is that the right one? Roll up of the menu for roll up property from the dishes database. There we go. So we want to show the original content there. Nice. All right, so we have to do some really quite tricky formula work to work out how many instances of each meal are in the menu to be able to work out the ordering. So I had to use some pretty funky formulas to do it, and you're going to have to bear with me because it gets a little bit monotonous. And the great thing about these Notion setups is we can do all this sort of ugly work in the background, and it's tricky to set up, but once you get your head around it, it kind of makes sense. Once you've done that, when you create the dashboard view, you can hide all those things. So people who are using it don't really have to understand all the intricacies of it or don't have to view all the ugly bits and pieces. They just get to use it and have it do what they want. So this is the formula. This is the one I couldn't work out on my own. Way too complicated for me. But it did teach me something about Notion that I didn't know, and that is that you're not limited to only the functions that Notion has in its formula property. It actually can use something called regex, which is well beyond my pay grade, but it can do all kinds of cool finding. I think it's particularly good at like searching for something and then, you know, giving you the answer. So what I needed to do was I needed to say, how many times does this ingredient appear in this week of the menu? And somehow in Red Gregory magic, that's what this formula does. So we need one of those for each week. And here's where the limitation about being able to limit the number of serves, like we can only specify it on a weekly basis. That's what we're bumping into here. So we have that for week 1. It's not behaving. Now we've got a week 1 serves relation. And this is a relationship to the serves database. So again, this is helping us work out how many serves for the ordering. How you going, Paul? You with me?
Yeah.
I'm drowning my own mess over here. The week 1 serves number. So this is going to tell us, this is actually going to roll up the information from the serves database. So it's a roll up and it's going to bring into this table so that we can run the calculation how many serves. So we need to show the serves. And is that all we need to do? Yep. So that'll eventually populate with how many serves are in week 1. And then we need the week 1 order formula. It's going to do the magic of telling us exactly what we need to order. I'm a bit nervous though that in your version it didn't work, Paul. Yeah. I had it working in mine, so maybe it was something as it crossed the ditch.
Yeah.
So this formula, it all makes a bit more sense once it's got content in it, but we are saying we're going to take the number of serves in week 1 and we're going to times that by the amount of this particular ingredient, and we're going to times it by how many times that appears in week 1. So that'll give us the ordering answer for week 1. And this weird thing here where it says to number, that's about changing that property from being a string to being a number so that we can do maths on it. Because previously Notion saw it as a string, which means it's not a number and it can't do maths. All right. Now, unfortunately, we need 4 versions of each of those. But thankfully, we can just kind of copy them and we can duplicate them. And we just have to change one little bit in the formula, which is this. bit because we're looking for the number 2, not the number 1. I hope. If I get that wrong, it's really not going to work, but pretty sure we're right there. We're going to create another relation to the serves database for week 2. This is where we really need some like groovy tunes or something because, oh, I picked the wrong one. Paul, did I hear today that they reckon you guys have managed to knock off all community transmission of COVID again?
Yeah, so we're back to level 1 midnight tonight.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so all of ours, we went back in because we weren't managing our quarantine quite as well as you'd hope. It was probably no one's fault. It's just one of those learning curves. So
yeah, we just had a royal commission about that.
Right.
We yeah, because that was the cause of the second outbreak here in Victoria as well.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that must be great. It must be a relief for everyone.
Yeah, especially well for my residents anyway, because they can resume normal family visits and stuff. So it's
of course
not like a prison, because that's effectively what it's been.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad that you haven't had to deal with what's happened here. The aged care situation here in Australia has been really dire, really difficult.
We weren't so lucky the first time around down in the South Island, not my company in particular, but it's with the target market, so it just rolls straight through you.
Yeah, it's super rough, isn't it? We've lost Lennon. Ran away. Oh, there he is. He'll be playing with his cat. He adopted a cat.
Cool.
I think Chipper might need to make an appearance, Lennon. No, denied. Not ready for internet fame. So here I go again, just making these relations. I didn't consider quite how laborious this bit would be. Sorry, everyone, must be a bit like watching paint dry.
I can tell you, well, it's not easy because I wouldn't have a clue, but when it works it all out for you, it's a whole lot better than doing it every day.
Yeah, I'll bet. Whoa. I think my wife just magically turned off the lights in my office. Build a smart home, they said. Yeah. It's still really dark in here. She hasn't realized that she turned all the lights off on me. Hey, Shannon, can you text Jay and tell her to turn the lights on in my house? You know what? I think this is the best idea. Allow participants to unmute yourselves. All right. I was a bit worried that we had a lot of people register. I was a bit worried we would have too many people and the voice would be going crazy, but feel free to unmute yourself so that you can talk to me. Because it's just a small group of us.
Yeah, I was actually not.
Oh, you could.
Yeah, I couldn't come back.
Sorry.
That's why I was using sign language. But
you just left me in the lurch. I was like, I'm not sure this is going to go very well. He's tanking here. I'm just going to let it let him fry.
But Tim, is the light switch very far from you?
It's all smart control. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Hey Siri, turn the office lights on.
Wow, that's fancy.
There we go.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
You set that up.
I tried, but some devices didn't respond.
Could you hear that?
Yeah, we did.
That's great. I don't know. It seemed like they worked to me. All right, so I'm nearly done. So this was the really painful bit about this build, was to be able to separate each of the weeks out. And I can't imagine would be really that useful if you could only have exactly the same amount every week, regardless. So I had to work out how to build 4 weeks. All serves. The roll up. Nice, last one. So this was the really tricky table where all the work happens. And you can see with the roll-ups, what the roll-ups allow you to do is really like move information from one table into the next in quite sort of powerful ways. Because otherwise, like I had the menu in one place, but to work out how many instances of that menu there were, I needed to bring that information into another table and then run the calculation on it. All right, I think there's a fair chance that I've stuffed something up in there, but we'll just roll with it, hey? Okay, so that's 4 weeks. Now we've got our ingredients. So we've got name, which is just another title property. We've got that measurement property that we need to go back and roll up later on. So this is just literally the measurement that you're going to use for this ingredient. And we're going to make it a select property. Now we've got a relationship to recipes already. And this is where we are going to specify what the order is, because we need to run like a calculation to work out each individual week's order. So week 1 order, and it's a roll up. And so we're rolling up from the recipes database. We want to see the week 1 order. And we want to run a calculation. So it's going to grab every line in the recipes line, in the recipes database, and it's going to add up the result of that week 1 order, so that hopefully it'll be really easy to go shopping. Week 2 order. And we got to make it do a sum. So you can see here, because this is a number, the roll-up gives us a whole lot more options. When it's just a string, when it's just text, you obviously can't run any maths on it. But because they're numbers, you can do things like get the average or the maximum or the range. There's all these other calculations that you can do. So even though this use case might seem a little inaccessible, I think it's a really good example of just exactly what this thing can do if you are willing to think about it a lot. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, Paul, to try and work out how to do it. It was really fun. Okay, one more.
It's certainly better than the way I'm doing it at the moment.
Is it order? Yeah, order and sum. All right, I think we're done. Ingredients? Yes, cool. All right, so we've got all our ingredients now. I'm going to turn each of these tables, you can just turn them into a page here. I don't know if people have seen this, but so that if you want to create it as an inline first and then switch it back to being a full page. And if you ever want to go back the other way, just click that button and turn inline. That's how you go back and forth between tables being full page or not. Okay, cool. And so this is going to be our main dashboard too. So I like when I create a tool to put the databases inside the main page, because what sometimes happens, we'll create all these linked views. And so in theory, the user never actually goes straight into the database itself, but inevitably they'll click a button and they'll end up inside the database. And if you store the database somewhere else in their workspace, it gets really tricky for them to work out how to navigate back to where they were before. Whereas this way, we'll just create like a little toggle, and we won't put a title on it, we'll just put a space, and we'll just pop it in there like that. And so it's almost invisible, not quite, but they won't really notice it. It'll be just stashed down the bottom of the page somewhere. All right, one of the other little bits of magic to make this work really smoothly is we're gonna create a template for this database. So if you want every row in here to have the same either like content for the properties or the information on the inside of the page, like when you open up the page in here, it's blank at the moment. If we want everyone to have the same look, we can create a template. So we go in here and we say new template. And so we're going to create a template for the dishes one. We're going to call it new dish, because this is how you go in and you actually make a new dish. And we're going to put a little bit of helper text in here just so that it makes a bit more sense to people when they're using it. Now, the real trick that we're going to do though is something called a self-referencing filter. So we are going to do, these are like my 3 favorite words in Notion: create linked database. And this allows us to create a view of the recipes database that we made before and have it appear inside here. So we're not copying it, we're actually almost like looking in on it and having another sort of instance of it. So we create this linked view. Now we don't want to show everything because this is like slightly overwhelming. So we're going to turn most of these things off because people don't want to see them. It's all the calculation at the back end. We get rid of them all. We obviously don't want to delete them because they're really important, but we can hide them. And like you saw earlier, we just want to show ingredients, amount, and measurement. We don't want to show dishes either. So we can't untick the title, just always there, standing out, which is unfortunate. Oh, we didn't turn this into a roll-up property. You were meant to remind me. All right, so I'm just turning it into a roll-up because it was a roll-up from the ingredients and it was meant to show this measurement. Yeah, cool. So these roll-up properties, if you watched Lennon's one last time, they are automatically populated based on the information that they're sourcing and sometimes running a calculation on. So that means, unfortunately, that we can't change it here because it's getting dragged from another database, but it will show up. So we want people to be able to add in an ingredient, specify the amount, and see what measurement it's using. But we want to put a filter on this database here so that everything that gets entered is related to this dish that we're creating and automatically create that relationship between the ingredients and the recipe. So the way that we do that is we say, we put a filter on this table, and we'd use this, Notion only released this a little while back, and it's called a self-referencing filter. So we say, show me relations, show me entries in this database where the dishes relation, which is the database that we're building a template for contains, and it allows us to select the actual template itself. So we just select the template. Now what happens when we go back and we actually create one of these is it changes that relationship from the template to whichever dish we're creating. So that's how you, Paul, you were able to put all those ingredients in and they were automatically related to whichever dish you'd just made. And so for the user experience, you can imagine if you had to go through every time you added an ingredient and connect it to the recipe, it would be super clunky. But now it just happens in the background and you don't even notice. But all those connections are already made. So those self-referencing filters are super powerful and you use them all over the place once you start building databases and have a particular use for them. They're really, really powerful. Okay. Oh, the other thing that we need to say, yeah, this is a little bit even more nerdy, but we want every we need these the serves relations to always say the same thing. So we need week 1 to always be connected to week 1 and week 2 to always be connected to week 2. And we can do that here because this is the only place that someone's actually going to create a line in the recipes database. You can't create them anywhere else. You only create them here. And so every line that gets created will automatically have all these properties, which is something that we needed. So week 4 contains week 4 and we're done. So now when we click new, and this is the title property, so to go in and have a look, you can see that this item is automatically related to new dish, and it automatically has the relation to the week 1 serves so that it can pull up the number property here. It'll all make more sense in a minute when we build the dashboards and show you. All right. So we go back out of here because we've just been making a template. Well, that's not a good sign. And we're back in the recipes database, and I'm going to delete all these existing entries. So now when we say new, oh, what did I just do? Where's my template gone?
Was it in a different database?
Different database.
Do you want to maybe search for the title of that template?
Create a filter. Oh, it's in the dishes database. Phew. That could have been a disaster. All right, so we say new and we say new dish. And because we've selected that template, it auto adds these ingredients contents. And then it has a linked view of the recipes, and we click new. And because we've added it inside this filter, it'll automatically have its other relationships. All right. So now what we're going to do, we put all the nerdy stuff in the back end to make it all work. Now we're going to build the dashboards that people will use. And this is the easy bit. So we want one that we're going to call add dishes and recipes. And we'll just turn it into a page. We'll jump in here and we'll salad. I thought healthy dish is what we're going for here. So we add that info there. Now we need a linked view of the dishes database. So we go create linked database again. Now this dishes database, we're going to hide almost everything except the name. so that someone can just go in and click new and add their dishes in. Or actually, they don't even do that. They come in and they say new dish and add it in. So that's one. Now, one of the downsides, I'll show you this right now, actually. When you create a new dish, because you can't specify the ingredients, let's say we're going to make, I only know how to make one thing, so it better be spaghetti. So we're going to add new ingredients. Now, these ingredients that we're creating, they don't exist yet because there's nothing in the ingredients database. So I'm about to come across that bug, aren't I?
Yep.
We say we have to add it as a new entry in the ingredients database. Once it's in there forever, and you'll just be able to select it. So we're adding pasta. Ooh. And I don't know, we want 50 grams of it, but we can't specify the measurement because this is a roll up. So what we need to do to make it much easier for someone is to create another database, another dashboard that is called specify measurements for ingredients. And this is going to allow people, when they've made a new ingredient, it's going to give them the ability to add that measurement. A little bit of helper text so that this all makes sense to someone. How did you go with it, Paul? Because I didn't talk you through it at all. I just dumped it in your workspace and you had to try and work it out for yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, the entry was fine apart from that bug.
Yeah.
Reasonably straightforward. You probably have to run me through the number of serves.
Yep.
Yeah. How that works.
Yeah, because at the moment, all it allows you to do is create, let's say, like this week 1, we're feeding 50 people. And so you can specify that. Week 2, we're feeding, so that you can, when you put your recipes in, you can put them on, say, like a per person basis.
Yeah.
And then what you end up being able to order is the real amount. Yeah.
Right.
I built it all without working that out, and then realized, oh, hang on, this is not going to work at all. Like every recipe might be for a different number of people, and then the ordering element doesn't really make any sense. So we want the ingredients here, and we need to hide all these things that we don't need to see. We just want the name and the measurement, and then we want to put a filter on this to only show us things that don't already have a measurement. So we say where the measurement is empty. And what do you measure pasta in, mate? Grams?
Oh, yeah, everything's grams these days, even water just about.
Yeah, right. And so see, as soon as it's there, I put it in, it disappears. So this will only show the measurements for ingredients that don't, the ingredients that don't have a measurement. So
all these recipes you put in, they're based on a single serve, and then you work that out later on. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's how I built it at the moment. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to ask you practically whether that is actually the most useful way.
Yeah.
You could come up with a default, make 10 or something. It would just need to be able to be the same.
Yeah. I think if you made it 10, then people could scale it up by a percentage, which is probably going to be more accurate than timesing, like 5 grams of salt over.
I did think it might get a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the page that someone would use to actually set the menu and the number of serves. So you can see we're just trying to build. I do this a lot. Like you build a page or a dashboard, I call them, for a particular job, for a particular workflow, so they can just go in, do that job, and whether you need to bring in 2 or 3 databases to create the space to do that. That's kind of, I think that's like Notion's superpower really, is that it can bring all that information that you need into the one place. You can have it right there. Yeah. So we want to do serves first. We're going to hide half of these because we don't want to see any of the ugly relations. And so we want to sort them as you would expect. So someone can add the number of serves in. A bit more helper text here. Okay, so we're going to do this in toggles because 4 weeks is quite a lot. And I was sort of guessing that you might actually organize them week by week, not necessarily do them all at once. Or would you literally sit down and do 4 weeks of menus?
Yeah, so it rolls out as the monthly menu when it changes. So we have summer and winter at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to see the menu database. And we want to see, ooh. Huh. There it is. That was a bit weird. Add the order property. So we don't want to see that. But we do want to sort by that. So we want to sort, this is why we added those order columns in so that all the meals appear as you expect. And we're actually going to filter it so that we only see week 1. So that the name contains, actually we can just say 1 because none of the others contain 1. And we should get, yeah, just week 1 like that. And what we might do to speed this up is actually duplicate that. Call it week 2 and just change the filter to be 2. The duplicating feature in Notion is amazing in terms of how much time it can save you if you've got something that's pretty similar. Ooh. Okay, so we've got 4 weeks of menu available to us. And at the moment, there's only spaghetti on offer. It's not a great menu, mate. And I think my spaghetti only had pasta in it, so it's particularly tasty. All right, so that's how someone can go in and set the menu. We just got one left, which is the order list. What was this one? Receipt. Bit of helper text. So again, I thought you're probably not going to want to do 4 weeks worth of shopping in one go. So we went with the toggles again. I'm a big fan of the toggles. Great way to hide mess. If only we had them in real life, eh? So this time it's the ingredients list. And we're going to hide so this is actually where the calculation came in really important. So because we haven't specified any serves, actually maybe Paul, that's why in your one it all said 0.
Right.
But we'll go back in a minute and we'll specify some serves, and then this all of a sudden will take the calculation from the recipes table that we did with all the complicated business and tell us, oh, pasta appears, in 5 different recipes and it was needed in these amounts across those 5, and it adds them all up and then they appear there. So that's, you just get a sweet little shopping list.
Awesome.
So we just need to make 4 of these. I feel like Notion's starting to have had enough of me. It's started getting slower. And I just need to change this one. So we see week 2 there. I actually used to work for this training organization, and we would take groups away and cook, en masse for them for the week.
Right.
I wouldn't do the cooking. That wouldn't have been, organization wouldn't have lasted very long if it was me. But I think, where was Notion back then? We could have made our own lives so much easier.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's our order list. So we're done. And let's have a little look at trying to make this work. So sorry, I probably rushed just the last bit there. So we've got our 5 databases sitting in the back end doing all the work for us. And if we jump in here, we can see, here's my spaghetti. Oh, we had all these. I hate the way Notion creates tables with stuff already in them. So we've got our spaghetti dish, and the recipes table, it's actually probably not very well named, because really it ends up being a list of every single ingredient. So actually, Paul, maybe we'll jump back to yours, because you've done all this hard work. I think all we need to do is say, all right, so let's say in the first week we're going to serve 50 people. Word gets out. It's going up. People everywhere by the end. And you set a menu, didn't you? Sweet. Yep. This is the moment of truth here, people. So if we look at the order list, hey, there we go. That's a lot of coconuts, man. So you can see, though, based on your recipe, and we'll go and have a look at the recipes database in a sec, but the user experience, you should be able to add the items into the menu, create the dishes with all their ingredients, set a menu based on those dishes, say how many people you want to eat each week, and then you end up with a shopping list that says, okay, here's all your different ingredients. And actually, we probably could have made this a little bit more useful by filtering out anything that doesn't have, so this is like week 1. Week 1, filter where is greater than 0. Yes, I always get greater than and less than wrong. There you go. So here's a much more useful shopping list. I wouldn't want to be paying your bills though, mate.
No.
Yes. So based on the menu you've set, we end up with a shopping list.
Okay.
And the same should be true, but different in each of these weeks, because the menu changes, and therefore, how much we need changes. So if we duck in here and have a quick look at the recipes database, this will be pretty massive. But you can see, hang on, I'll sort this by the dish. Okay, so here's, whoa. Okay. Anyway, so baking soda appears in each of these dishes. I actually do not know what just happened then. Anyway, that's fine. Let's take this one for example. We've got the Afghan's dish. Here's all the ingredients for it, the amounts that you put in now, and the measurement that's used for those. Now this is the property that's rolling up, and it will show us every time it appears in the schedule. So every time you listed that as a menu item. And this property says how many times does milk appear in the Afghan's dish in week 1? Only once. And we said we want 50 serves of it. So then the calculation runs and it says, okay, we got 50 serves of one instance of 500 milliliters of milk. And so then we need, what is that? 25 liters of milk to be able to cook that, dish. I know that might be not quite right because your amounts are not based on single serves.
No.
Yeah, but you can see how it works.
Absolutely.
And then of course, if milk appears a whole bunch of other times, no doubt, there'll be heaps of milks, which is why in the ingredients database, if we could find milk in a hurry, milk appears, because we didn't put the names of the recipes in, but milk appears in Afghans, porridge, wheat bix, and protein shakes. And so the week 1 order like rolls up all the times milk appears and does the sum. And so here we go. This is the amount of milliliters of milk you need in week 1, and then week 2, and then week 3, and then week 4.
It's phenomenal. Mind blowing.
Oh, that's good because I'm confused. Oh, anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you say that each recipe is based on 1 serve?
Yeah, so Paul and I didn't communicate to Paul about this when he went and put all that info in, but so his amounts were not based on 1 serve, but in theory at the moment, the way it's set up is, as you saw in that recipes database, like if we take the milk example again, say if this was, only 5 mils of milk or whatever you need per serve, then it would make sense to times that by the number of serves, and then you would get the right amount. So
just to give you an idea of how powerful that is, each site might, some sites have 10 residents, some sites have 100. So you can work it out per site as well and push that out to the chefs, and then they would have what they need to order for their specific site. So yeah, it's awesome. It's unbelievable.
I'm finding it very hard with certain things for some reason. Like I find it hard to apply to cakes or things like that. Well, that are not normally based on how many people or.
yeah. So this works really well, I think, in like a catering kind of context. So you might work out, I'm guessing you might work out, okay, how many pieces of cake does each person eat?
Okay, yeah.
And therefore how many cakes do I have to make? You'd have to do, to be able to have the same system for every type of food or type of dish, you need to sort of align them all, so that you can work it out based on serves. But that's a bit of a catering problem generally, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, I mean, we would make a tray of chocolate cakes, say. We wouldn't, make individual round cakes.
Yeah, that's
my
word.
Yeah, and then we'd ice the whole thing, say, and then portion it probably by size. So say you might get 6 by 5 or 6 by 4 from a tray, so 24 portions. Or the other way would be to work it out that you want the customer to get 100 grams of cake each, and then go that way. And
Okay. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. Thanks.
Yeah.
And hi everyone, by the way.
Culinary is at its best.
Yeah. I think one of the things that Notion allows us to do is it kind of empowers us to do this level of calculations and manipulation, like for small businesses or small kind of enterprises. Like once upon a time, if you wanted to do this stuff, you would go and pay developers tens of thousands of dollars to build you a custom piece of software that ran all these calculations for you. There was no way that your average chump like me in Geelong could sit down for a couple of hours and work out how to do it. It wasn't possible. You needed a computer science degree, to do it. But this tool, the way those database relations work, especially like to be able to relate different databases and then roll the information up and then run a calculation on it, all in a relatively non-super technical way. Just makes it so accessible to build really powerful applications for ourselves, which is just, I love it.
Just surfacing that stuff day to day as well. So I spend about an hour at least every day working out from my list now, what I've got to order. So I don't miss anything anymore, but I've still got to do it. Whereas this, does it for you.
Should do it for you.
I could literally now send an email instead of going into my supplier's clunky website and typing in every ingredient and let them worry about that. So it would save 5 hours a week.
Winner.
Yeah, so that's the use case. That's epic.
Awesome. Nice. Any other questions?
I actually want to ask Paul, how long does it take you to kind of get used to Notion, or do you have any prior knowledge to it before you approach Tim?
No. So I usually fall for pretty software like things, and it works and it works well. I fell into this immediately, no reservations, and it was the community. I could see that you could surface information that you needed at a specific time. And price, I suppose, as well. Like whenever you click pricing on some of these things and you're like, well, Notion was reasonable. I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then they made it free the next week.
Yeah.
but it's something I'm happy to pay for, because that's the only thing that scares me. It's that it needs to stick around, because if this goes, I'm screwed.
That makes sense. And any other tool you used before Notion, you're trying to maybe achieve the same thing, or this is really the first time you feel like it's something you can start building things for you?
I think with Notion, it was the scale of things that you could do. So I used Todoist, I think maybe 3-4 years ago, but you can't build a system like that. Maybe you can, but I don't have the time. Whereas with Notion, you can move things around. It's like building blocks, isn't it? So
yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily break if you get something wrong. It's sort of immediately obvious if it is broken, because it's not working, so you can fix it. But yeah, again, that, and thanks to you guys, the vibrant community around it is just unbelievable.
Yeah, Len and I've had a good time. We met kind of people from all over the place who are doing really interesting stuff, like yourself. Yeah, that's I find it really helpful, because I consult and do this, for businesses, but to learn new ways of like getting a perspective on a problem, that's often really hard. You always look at things, the way you look at them. And so to come across a whole different way of thinking, and someone else saying, oh, we really wish it could do this, Yeah, I mean, I've built really complicated setups for law practices for how they manage all their files and to do with billing and all these, but I'd never used half the stuff I did to be able to build that one, so
Yeah.
it's great fun.
No, it's good. And you sort of take it on as you get more comfortable too. So, I mean, obviously I've avoided formulas, looked at Reed Gregory before and just gone, you're some kind of wizard.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. Yeah, all the usual suspects, Marie Pauline and Pollen. Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah. Nice. I'm exhausted after building that thing. I swear it was going to break too. I was like,
you handled it well.
I kept saying to Lennon, oh, I think this might be, we might be pushing what we should try with the build with me, like it's just, there's a few too many tricky bits in there, but it worked.
Cool. No, it's amazing. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure. Well, I'm really interested to see, because once you actually get in there and you start using it, my experience in building things for people is, that'll be very much version 1. Won't take too long and you'll be like, oh, what we really need is to be able to do this. And you start sort of extending it out, finding a whole lot more opportunities, more problems to solve.
Yeah, for sure.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, should we leave it there?
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Sweet. We'll see you next time. We'll shoot around an email and I'll upload this to the YouTube.
Tim, can I just ask a question?
Of course.
I think I literally just joined a few minutes ago, so I must have had the wrong timings. I'm in London, so I just apparently can't seem to translate time zones. But yes, I'd be interested in the recording, as I clearly joined just at the very last minute.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome.
Yeah. Well, we have we made a YouTube channel just to post these up to. So
Great. Okay.
We'll put it up there probably tomorrow.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Good.
Well, nice to see you all.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day. It's just the beginning of your day, isn't it?
Yes, 10 a.m.
Nice. Oh, well. Enjoy your Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a good evening, all.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you. Thanks,
See you
guys.
later, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.